Hey, this is Tabletop Weekly coming to you a little bit later than usual tonight, and we are the partners of Solarian Games. I had to look at the notes to see who I am. I'm Jason,
I'm Peter.
and this week's stories. Chris Perkins retires from Wizards of the Coast. Tariffs. What do they mean for the game industry and for us and for you and for everybody? Warhammer the Old World RPG is coming soon. Pillage is a new medieval war game about pillaging. And there is a new survey about tabletop gaming out from an insurance company called Compare the Market. And it's actually got some pretty interesting stuff. So stick around to the end to hear what we learned from them.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So we are running a little late today because, Peter, you have been very busy shooting some video, haven't you?
Yes, I have shot. We're doing our Kickstarter coming up, and I had to shoot a video for it.
So yeah,
this is like your brainchild, man. So you get to tell it.
All right, yeah. So this is for Kiss My Grits.
Yep.
This is the card game of Diner Mayhem. And you get to be waiters and waitresses and servers and servoids in a greasy spoon diner, but all the checks have gotten mixed up. So you have to trade your food cards with the other servers to get the right food so you can fill the bills. And you earn some tips, and there's some fun action cards, and it's a pretty simple, easy to play game for everybody. So to shoot the video, you had a cool local diner to go actually shoot it in.
Yeah, we had. It's near my house, closer to my older place, but it's called the Aberdeen Diner, and it is a perfect diner. Like, it is literally like what you imagine when you go to a diner, like a neighborhood diner. It's awesome. The food there is really good. Perfect diner food, greasy spoon type of thing, not fancy schmancy stuff. You're not going to get avocado toast there.
No,
but they do
no
have
square,
scrapple.
no square plates. That is my
Right.
rule. If a place has square plates for breakfast, I am not eating there.
And to further express like how cool this place is, when I went in earlier this week to ask the guy if we could film there, I talked to the owner, a guy named John, and he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, it'd be great. Come on in." Like, just everything you expect. It was awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. And people had fun playing the game, I hope.
Yes, they did. Yeah, we had a good time.
Right on, right on. So we will be putting up the Kickstarter coming soon page this week, and we'll yell it to the rafters and ask for everybody's help, telling other folks about it. And we will be launching the Kickstarter, I believe, at the end of the month. I think we have enough time still to tell people before then. So
yeah, I think so.
We just have to get a few things worked out with the pricing because, as we will talk about later, tariffs are affecting things. So
a little bit.
Before we worry about that, let's get to the first story of the night, which is Chris Perkins is retiring from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
So Chris Perkins, I mean, it's funny when we think about old guard and somebody who's a real stalwart figure in the industry, we think back to, Gary Gygax and Peter Atkinson and all the people that we think of from TSR, Frank Mentzer and Len Lakofka and Skip Williams and everything. But in terms of tenure, these are folks who were maybe working in the industry at TSR for maybe 5 years, 10 years, something like that. Chris Perkins has been working for over 30 years. He got his start in 1988 writing for Dungeon Magazine, which was still a thing. It was only issue number 11 at the time.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is old school as can be. And he wrote a thing called Wards of the Witching Ways, and he went by the name Christopher Zarathustra.
Right.
So we know he's a proper nerd.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he didn't officially start working for Wizards until 1997. And he kind of rose through the ranks, going from editor-in-chief of periodicals because he was with Dungeon Magazine. And actually, I have in the notes here that it was Dungeon Magazine number 11. That is, sorry. What am I saying? I was mixing them up. Of course, it was Dungeon number 11. Dragon is the real old school one. I should
Mhm.
know this, right? After
Right.
doing
Yeah. You
that
think?
magazine. But anyways, he rose through the ranks. Eventually became creative director. He's done a lot of stuff. Like he's well known as the Dungeon Master for the Acquisitions Incorporated live shows, and he just in October was promoted to creative director, basically to shape the entire Dungeons and Dragons brand. So it's kind of weird that he's retiring just a few months after being given this big promotion.
Yeah. That does seem a little weird.
And he's not that old. He's 57.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think that the tabletop gaming industry is this incredibly lucrative thing that turns you into a multimillionaire by 57. You know,
Probably not.
I don't think this is the end that we're going to see for him in the gaming industry. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the actual truth is? That's total speculation. But it just seems strange.
It's kind of like what was the guy a couple weeks back? We were like, oh, he got fired, but then it wasn't that he got fired; he got promoted. He just wasn't doing that job anymore, wasn't
This
he?
is him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, pretty sure.
oh, same guy. Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, anything I say would be speculation, but we can say that there's been some turmoil, between the that VTT, the 3D VTT, Spire, Spike, Spooble, whatever the thing is called. I've forgotten already. The cool sandbox that didn't pan out. Sigil. Thank you. There has been sort of sniping from the sidelines about the latest version of 5e from Mike Merles, nonetheless. I've heard Mike Merles giving interviews where he's just kind of like, we got it right with 5th edition and they're messing it all up. And, I don't know what's going on over there.
I don't know. Hey, Brian. Oh, God. Brian, I'm sorry.
Kalchuk. That's our Brian.
Kalchuk. I know. He says creative differences, maybe. That could very well be it. That might be exactly what we're saying.
Could be. But that is news, and we have said it.
Yes.
All right. Let's go to the thing that everybody is talking about this week.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Not our gamers, but literally everybody.
Literally everyone. Like, not just in America. Literally everyone.
Yeah. You go into a diner, you go into a bar, you go into any place, and somebody's talking about tariffs. Because it's weird. So we're going to talk about what they mean for the game industry specifically. But first, for that one person who's been walled up in their brick wall or something for a couple of weeks and didn't know about this. The United States is now imposing tariffs kind of across the board in this sort of very just broad strokes way. Which if you've ever nerded out on international relations and trade deals, you know that normally these things are hammered out by huge groups of people over months, and they get down to the nitty gritty and they start worrying about, what if I put 2 more pennies on this piece of farm equipment, but then 1 less penny on it's a big, carefully worked out deal. It's kind of the core of international relations. One of the Star Wars episodes is about a trade route causing a war.
Right.
But in this case, we said, screw all that stuff. We're just going to randomly do things. And the press has sort of tried to catch up and figure out how they figured what these numbers were. Basically, apparently what they did was they took the trade deficit that we have with another country. So if we sell 100 widgets to Lithuania, but then Lithuania sells 200 widgets back to us, that's a trade deficit. We're buying more from them than we're selling to them. And I don't know. Somebody thinks that's unfair. I guess if you go to the grocery store, they should buy as much from you as you buy from them. Otherwise, they're ripping you off, right? I don't know. So they took this trade deficit and then they divided that by the total goods imported from that country and then divided that number by 2. So, for example,
divided it by 2 because we're going to be nice. That's what I heard.
Yeah,
right?
nice.
Is that right? We're gonna be
yeah,
nice.
that was the phrase, right?
That was the phrase. Yeah, sure.
Well, first of all, trade deficits aren't even a thing. It's just not a thing, you know. But apparently somebody thinks we're getting ripped off, and so if you take it this way, the United States buys more goods from China than we sell to them. You know, we know that China is our factory. You know, we've known this ever since NAFTA, whatever you think of it, and all the other kind of things. We went for globalization, and we found out that the American consumer wants to buy cheap stuff overseas. And so we shut down all of our industries, and you know, you can't just start them back up. So now we buy all this stuff from other places. So we buy more goods from China than we sell to them, to a total deficit of $295 billion. And then the total amount of goods that we buy from them is 440 billion. So you divide 295 by 440, which gets you 67%. Divide that by 2 and round up, and therefore the tariff is 34%. So because tariffs are additive, and we already had a 20% tariff with China, now, for example, the tariff on goods made in China is 54%. Anything that, if we go and we get a widget manufactured in Shanghai, then we have to add 54% tax on top of that, because we have to pay it. So, you know, you have to pass it along. So China's 54%, Vietnam's 46%, most of Europe and Canada is 25%. So that's kind of where that begins, and that's where everybody had their freak out for, you know, pretty logical reasons. You know, everything in Walmart is about to go up by at least 50%. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I mean, who knows? It could all. Who knows what it's all going to mean, because everything is so capricious that it could all change in a minute.
But, yeah, well, I think some of this is also, from what I've heard, there have been some people saying that it's possible that this is basically just peacocking to get the countries to like do things and change things, and that these tariffs could be for a week, and then, you know, next week maybe it'll go away because, I don't know, someone did whatever they've been asked to do, which they didn't think was fair, but they're like, screw it, I guess we'll have to do it.
I would not be surprised at all if the tariffs change wildly over the next couple of months. Like, they might shoot up, they might go down.
Right. This number is in no way set in stone right now.
You know, I mean, this is, I guess, how certain orange dude thinks that negotiating works, right? So all that's going to happen, and you know, who knows? Maybe someone will give him a deal on building a hotel in their country, and then
with a certain name on it.
Yeah, and then they'll get better deals. But what it's doing in the meantime is it's sending the stock market into a tailspin, and it's sending our game industry into a freak out, because most of us are little companies like you and me who need to actually plan ahead. We need to know how much to charge people for things. We're putting Kickstarters on it. So there's good news and bad news, though, in that world. A day or two ago, the rumor started flying around that board games and tabletop RPGs would be exempt, and there was much rejoicing. And then it turned out they'd read the stuff wrong, and that's not true. Games are not exempt, but books maybe are.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's these things called harmonized tariff codes, and what it basically, we've had to deal with it before when we've had stuff published and bring it over, because you have to put your customs declarations down and say what's in the box, and you have to get the code number right, because the customs agent is going to look at your shipment and he's going to say, is this that? Right? So if we say it is silverware, they're going to check and go, yeah, that looks like silverware, right? So games, there's a bunch of different tariff codes for games, but all of them basically work out to, they're putting tariffs on it. There's another code for books, and it doesn't really matter how. I'm going to put a quote here. So the Modifius head of brand, Samantha Webb, she told Rascal News, customs cares about what the item is, not what its intended use is. So she explained that even if a role-playing game is played as a game, If
a
it
book.
comes as a book, Customs considers it a book.
Book. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because where the hell else are they going to draw the line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a bit of judgment calls too, right? And then Rowan Rook and Descartes relationship manager Matt Sanders actually said that there's some good gray areas and pointed to one example, GM screen.
Ooh.
So he said a GM screen isn't really that much different than a children's book with thick cardboard pages. So many publishers categorize them as books. Others choose to categorize them as game accessories. And it basically comes down to what does the customs agent think when they look at the sample?
Interesting.
Because we're working on a game right now where the plan is to put the game out as a GM screen. It's called Mirror Shades. It's a simple cyberpunk game. And it might get more complicated than that. I don't know. But the idea is that if we put it as a GM screen, can we call it a book? And Brian Kowalczyk is asking, what if you put all your game cards in a book and perforate them so they can be pulled out? That's actually a great question.
It is.
I think 9 times out of 10, you'd probably get away with it.
Yeah, but I can't imagine how much that might cost, like a ton of money to do that anyway, right?
Oh yeah, it would be cheaper at that point to
just make them cards, right? I think.
Yeah. But that's the thing. If you do so for Kiss My Grits, there's no way we're gonna make anyone think it's a book. It is a card game.
It's a game. It's a card game.
All that's in the box is cards and rules.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna get hit
going
with it.
to pay more.
We'll talk about it later when we talk about the. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, say it.
Oh, I was just all I was gonna say was that we picked a fine time to launch this Kickstarter, but on the upside, we could have launched it 2 months ago,
and then found out
about the freaking tariffs, and then gotten bit in the ass because we didn't charge enough for it. So, we are where we are. I mean, this was So we've planned accordingly, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the numbers, I said, I know the tariffs are coming. I know they're going to be stupid. So let's just take whatever we expect to spend on this and double it.
Yeah.
And then we'll price it, based on that. And so I think, what it means for us for this game is it means there was a bunch of stuff we wanted to do that would have driven the price up. It would have, without the tariffs, we could have put a bunch of more cool stuff in there. But with the tariffs, we unfortunately cannot afford to put the cool stuff in. So it's going to be a pretty straightforward card game that, we'll charge accordingly for and hope that people say, well, I want to play the game enough that I don't mind paying a little extra. But
now the good part of that is, or the positive aspect of that is that the cool stuff would just be extra. You're still, the game itself is not being compromised in any way.
Right.
Like it's still the game it always was. It just may not.
Yeah, it was just going to be, some fun like play mats and hats and stuff like that. And we can probably put those in as additional, if people say, yeah, that's worth it, I'll pay extra for those, then we can have them as add-ons.
Right.
And that kind of thing. And then, the question that keeps coming up for people who haven't spent a lot of time around manufacturing is, well, so why don't you just make it in the United States? Because they assume that it's just a matter of cost, right? Like, oh, well, if the United States manufacturer only costs, 30% more, you'll save money and do it locally. But what the problem is with that? They don't exist.
Right. Yeah. There really aren't any card company or companies that will make card games in the United States that aren't we got like GameCraft and all these like POD type services.
Right. But that's
super expensive, like ridiculous expensive. I mean, it's great for prototyping. I'm like don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything about GameCraft or Drive-Thru. Yeah. They are fantastic. They have a great service for prototyping and the prices are fair for prototype product. But you can't do that on scale. That's not.
No, they're
scalable.
Never intended to be.
Right, and they weren't intended to be. Right.
When somebody does that, when they make a print-on-demand card game, they have to sell it for like $50 because it's expensive. That's the way that these businesses work.
Well, and
you can't just build a factory overnight. If you want to start a printing company, it's not just a question of saying, let's get the building, right? First, you got to get the equipment, which isn't sold in the United States. It's not made in the United States. So you're going to pay the tariffs bringing the equipment in.
It's
I
true.
mean, just think about the cost of some of this huge industrial equipment, just the cost of getting it in. And then who's going to run it? Who do you know that is sitting around? They just happen to be a master press operator and they just,
Right.
oh, I was just waiting for somebody to offer me the job.
Right. And it's
That
not just
job.
printing it. There's printing, cutting, assembly. There's a whole process. It's not just making a thing. There
Yeah.
is, because that's, so I'm in the place I work, we do prototypes and stuff. That's what you call fabrication when you
Yeah.
just make a thing. Manufacturing is a process. It's a start to finish process. And it's not just making the thing. There's a whole, like you have multiple people, multiple stations. There's a whole like setup that goes into place. And a lot of times that setup costs millions of dollars to build.
Yeah.
Like just the setup. You haven't done anything yet.
Yeah. And the thing is that the people that are doing it, these sort of jobs are traditionally apprenticeship jobs. When you're in manufacturing, you don't just, yes, you go to a trade school to learn it, but then you need to apprentice underneath somebody who's been doing it for their whole life, who can teach you the ins and outs that you don't learn in the school. And that's been the way it's been for a long time. And then when manufacturing collapsed in North America, mostly in the United States, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, that meant essentially we skipped a generation. Because all the people who were doing it then, they've retired now. Some of them are still doing it. They're holding on a little bit, but they haven't been apprenticing anybody or anything like that. And you can blame it on NAFTA, which is probably true, and say that it wasn't a good idea to do what we did, which I think it was wrong. I think it was dumb. But we are where we are. You're not going to you can't just suddenly create, all these people who can do it. What you could do is maybe you could get them to immigrate from other countries, but oops, we don't want that either. So anyway,
yeah. We don't want to get into the politics of all this.
No.
The point
is manufacturing is not coming back, and it's not coming back, especially if everything's crazy where you're like, well, what if I do invest $50 million into starting a factory, and then all of a sudden the tariffs go away and now my factory can't make money anymore.
Right.
So anyways, the point is it's crazy, but the good news is books. So I think what this really means is as we work on new things, we will be avoiding box sets. We'll be trying to focus on things that are books and, do what we can do.
Yeah. All right.
So that was
enough of that boring nerd talk about tariffs.
Let's go to the next one. You want to take it?
Sure. And I apologize to anyone if I don't know a whole lot about what's going on. I had a big thing and I was busy.
We're just going to tell you news. We don't even know about Warhammer, but
there's this thing called Warhammer. You might have heard of it. Warhammer, the old world. It says here, why just play the war game when you've already got minis, terrain, and minis again? Enough to play your own RPG campaigns. All you'd need is a tabletop RPG system to do so. Now, see, I thought they had an RPG.
So they do, right? So there's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they've decided there's going to be more. So it's weird because you've got in Warhammer 40K, you've got the Horus Heresy RPG that's coming out. And then you've already got Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. But this is a new RPG with a slightly different system and very different lore. So what we know so far is, because this hasn't been released yet, it's called Warhammer, the Old World. And it will have a new system, which has D10 dice pools at its heart, which I guess is similar to Warhammer I don't know. But here's what we know about it, right? So we know that this game is set in a very different world. It opens with the Empire leaderless. States and regions in a standoff with several rival claims to the imperial throne. There's tension threatening to spill over into civil war. And yet, many of the large external threats to the old world are weak and seemingly defeated. And so at this point, the vampire wars are a century over. Beastmen are confined to the deepest corners. And yet, there's mortal danger coming somehow. The grim portent embroils people in the machinations of a deadly enemy.
That's a lot of big words.
Poised on the brink of a new era where the tensions of the past are ready to flare to life again. So
wow,
it sounds a little similar to maybe like 30 Years' War in is it medieval? I don't know. 30 years, would 1600s be Middle Ages? Whatever. It sounds a bit like the pre-modern era in Europe, you know, when everybody was just going to war with everybody all the time.
Oh yeah, it was bloody as hell then.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always good to have another fantasy role-playing game, right? I mean, there aren't that many on the market. So,
right. You know, we need more because nobody's doing those.
It might work really well because, as we're going to see in the last story, there's a lot of Warhammer players out there. So,
yeah. Well, no, there are.
If you're
Warhammer is very,
player
very
and you
popular.
care about this and you know way more than we do, you probably already knew about this, but if you didn't, now you do.
Yeah. Oh, so Brian says something about, I wonder if Earl Hayes Press would do it. I don't know who Earl.
I don't know. I thought Earl Hayes was the guys that did the cheap paint for your car.
I don't know that. Oh no, it's somebody else.
Earl Scheib.
Earl Scheib, yeah, and that's a very Baltimore thing there, Jason. All right, anyway, let's go on to the next one.
This looks cool. I'm
this
excited
does look
about
cool.
this.
Pillage, a new medieval war game.
Yeah. So I don't know if we got Jonathan Reinhardt with us tonight in the chat or not, but I want to know what he thinks of this.
Yeah, this is right up Jonathan's alley.
It looks like it's played with 25 millimeter miniatures, I think. And I love a good miniatures war game.
Sure.
I can't afford to play one, but I love them. This one, it's set in the Middle Ages, and it's recreating those cinematic moments when the riders come in and they burn down the village and they pillage and they loot and everything else. And you can either be the defenders who are dealing with these, you know, Viking raids or whatever, or you can be the Vikings and just come in and pillage the town.
Yeah. Good times.
The thing I really like about this is that it's historical, which is always fun.
Yeah.
And the first book apparently focuses on the period of 793. So any history buffs who care about the British Isles might recognize that year. That is the year that there was the first Viking raid on British soil at Lindisfarne.
Okay.
It was actually, I mean, it was a horrible, horrible raid by all accounts. I mean, they just came in and killed the monks and slaughtered everybody. It was an absolute bloodbath.
Dude, any of those times have been romanticized. All that stuff was horrible.
No, you wouldn't. I mean, can you imagine? You're a monk in what you think is the end of the world. I mean, Lindisfarne is way, way, way up in the north of England on a rocky outjutting. It seems like you would just have nothing to worry about. The only thing you have to worry about is the storms. And then all of a sudden, these people you've never even heard of show up in boats from a place that you didn't even know there was anything on the other side of that water.
Right.
And they just start hacking you to pieces.
Yeah, like, wait.
Yeah, wait, I don't even know you.
Right.
And it's weird because when I think of Lindisfarne, it's because it's also the name of a really, really great kind of folk band from the 70s that is very peaceful and cute and fun. Right. So there you go. Anyways, so this first book focuses on the period of 793 and the Lindisfarne raid all the way through to 1066, when, of course, the Normans came in and got Harold in the eye with an arrow.
Yeah.
Or wherever they hit him. And it's a relatively small scale game. Your forces will be made up of 15 to 30 warriors per side. And there's 7 factions: the Vikings, the Franks, the Anglo-Saxons, the Normans, the Bretons, the Welsh, and the Irish. And then it says, as well as the Picts and Scots. So I guess that's 9, not 7.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks really fun. It's got all techniques like shield walls and berserkers, and there's even rules for naval battles. So if you want to bring your Viking longship up there, it just sounds really fun. I wish I could afford all the minis you need to play it.
And all the time it takes to paint them, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we think sometimes with tabletop role-playing games that we're in a niche where we can't sell a lot of books because, you know, what 1,000 books is a big success, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think of the people who are making these war games.
Yeah.
How many can they sell?
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, in a just world, they would sell millions, and I could
Yeah.
go to anybody's house and just play it, right? But it
I
looks
mean,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, if I had the, so there's barriers to entry, right? Because like to play these games, you have to have people to come over and play them with you.
Mhm.
You have to have the space for it and the time and everything. And so I can see why in a lot of cases, video games and movies and stuff, outbid these for people's time and money and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, at the end of the day, these are generally more fun.
They are. I
I
mean,
mean,
that's the thing.
I would rather play a war game like this with somebody than play just about any video game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you got all the stuff set up,
Yeah.
the idea of being able to sit down at a big table with a whole terrain set in front of you and all of your forces laid out, and you've
And
got
your
your rules.
friends and some beers and some, oh man, come
Yeah. I mean, and
Right.
half the fun is just arguing over the rules through half the summary time when you're like, well, I don't think a shield wall would be able to stand up to the forces of an elephant. Well, I think
Right.
this elephant would be very good at it, and here's why.
Well, not
You
only
know?
that, but like in a video game, when you screw up and you curse or something
Mhm.
bad happens to you, you're like, God, there's nobody there to make fun of you for losing, right? Which is
Right.
half the fun, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I mean,
like if I
everywhere.
throw some bad dice, somebody should be like, ha, because that's, I mean, it's funny because then you do it to them and it's great. It's
Yeah.
good times.
I mean, every convention I'm at, the first thing I want to do is go over to the wargaming room
Yeah.
and get
I need to do
it's
more of
always
that.
tough because I see these and I want to go up and be like, hey, can I play too? And I don't know the rules, and
Yeah.
do they want somebody like that coming up? I don't know, but
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I love More Blood so much, because it's something we can do on somewhat on that level.
Yeah.
It's not quite a war game, but it's kind
It's
of there. Sort
it's
of
some
there.
minis. It's good. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I just like I like miniature wargaming and skirmish gaming because it's actually a very contemplative hobby. You
Yeah,
know,
I agree.
you get to
Yeah.
really sit there and think about it, take your time, like you said, crack open a beer, sit with your buddies, all of that. So
Yeah.
I would love to play Pillage. If anybody lives in Central Connecticut and is not a weirdo and has and wants to play,
Good luck.
yeah, sorry, that's I've just ruled out a lot of people, haven't I? But
Sorry. We're kind of weirdos too.
yeah, but the
Yeah,
kind I
whatever.
mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. The kind that weirdos think are weirdos, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just yeah. I'll say no more.
All right.
All right, let's go to the final story, which I think is pretty fun.
All right.
All right. So there is this company from Australia called Compare the Market. They are a home and contents insurance comparison expert.
Wait, what is that?
Basically, what they do is they look at when you go to insure the things that you own, if
Mhm.
it's something really straightforward like a car or a house, there's a pretty easy to understand market that's placed on it. If I say I've got a 2018 Chevy Silverado, there's a blue
Mhm.
book price for that. If I
Oh
say
yeah,
that,
okay. Got it. Yep.
but most people, not most people, a lot of people have things in their houses that just are not so easy to price.
Right. Yeah.
And so these guys, they look at the markets for all kinds of things that people might own. What are my rare Jack Nicklaus golf clubs worth or whatever? And so they did a survey. This time they did it looking at tabletop gamers. So they put
Okay.
out the Tabletop Gamers Guide to Home and Contents Insurance.
Huh.
I find that very useful right off the bat because I have a collection that I need to insure more carefully.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah.
Way
Yeah.
more than mine. I'm not a collector. I have some good pieces, but you got like a little museum going on down there.
I didn't mean to, but the trouble is I keep hanging around with people like John Peterson and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on names now all of a sudden. The collectors, right? The people who are spending more than I would spend on a house, right?
It's like I have an original Gamma World. I have a Sword Bearer, which is
Mhm.
cool. I have a Universe and I forget what the other one, Dragon Slayer, the other SPI game, Dragon something.
Mhm.
But those are like, that's it. And I have the original Doctor Who box set that
Yep.
came out.
I have
But
that.
but that's all I have.
Yep, I definitely have the original Doctor Who box set. Most of the games that I care about, I make sure to have, first editions and original printings and all that kind of stuff. And yeah. So, anyways, the point is, they said, okay, we're going to do something that lets people know kind of what their stuff is worth. But as part of doing that, they did a whole survey on who's playing what where, and I thought this was pretty cool. So, let's go into it. You want to hit up the first stats that we see there? They looked at active gamers and people who have ever gamed in 3 different countries.
Active
So
gamers.
they're focusing here on the United States, Canada.
Yeah. Okay.
And Australia.
So we have the highest proportion of active players is in the U.S. and that's 12.8%, followed by Canada, which is 10.4%, and Australia, which is 4.8%. I'm really surprised by that. Like, once you get past
huge number.
What's that?
That's a huge number. That's 12.8% of everyone in the United States plays a role-playing game.
That's crazy. That is
you walk down the street, 1 out of every 10 people you see is secretly harboring a role-playing game hobby.
That's interesting because, I mean, like, if you think, let's put this in perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me so that if I go out to Nebraska, now I know it's going to be more concentrated in different places, but I got to Nebraska and there are all these farmers and corn growers and all this kind of stuff, right? There's going to be a percentage of them, and not 1%. It's going to be a decent percentage of them that play role-playing games. And then if I go to, like, I don't know, down into Miami, I'm going to find role players down there, like a significant, not just like 1 in 1,000 people, but like hundreds, maybe thousands of people there that play role. That is interesting.
Because, I mean, when we think about the numbers that we see Wizards putting up, the millions and millions that they're selling, these have to be sold to somebody.
Yeah, right? Somebody's buying them.
And so, to be clear, now to be fair, this is 12.5% or 12.8% of respondents. So they were talking to adults. So they're not So I think they're not including anybody under the age of 18.
Right.
So that cuts it down a bit. And,
and probably nobody above a certain age. And
well, it's kind of interesting. So this is 12.8% of respondents are currently actively playing some type of tabletop game. Tabletop game. Now, come to think of it, it's not just RPGs. So this is going to be.
Dave Roster's in Nebraska. I just happened to pick that.
Yeah, I want to. No, you know what though? They actually did say this is okay. I'm going to give you the question they asked. They said the exact question they asked was, "Do you or have you ever played and collected a tabletop role-playing game or war game?" And 12.8% of Americans in the United States said, yes, I collect and play tabletop RPGs and or war games.
Wow. Okay.
Another 11% said they used to, but they don't have a collection anymore.
Right.
Another 5% said they play or they used to play, but they always borrowed other people's stuff.
Right.
So, and then 70% said, no, I don't play. So that means there was like around almost 30% of United States respondents said that they had they used to play or they still did.
Right.
And then Canada was 10.4% active players and almost 32% have ever played.
Yeah. That's and look at that. America, 29.3%.
Yeah. And so I'm looking at the breakdown now. I'm just popping ahead to the next one that says, the different age groups.
Yeah.
This is really, really encouraging. Okay. Gen Z is the largest by far in the United States.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
In Australia, it's millennials that are the highest.
Oh, all right.
But Canada and the United States track fairly closely to each other. 60% of the gamers were between the ages of 18 and 24.
That makes sense. I mean, considering the way the trend has been going and what we've been seeing, yeah.
And it drops off after that. It drops down to like 48% or whatever for millennials, and then way down to like 22% for Gen X, and then baby boomers are way down under like 5%.
Now, Chris Lights says, yes, is this depressing? I'm depressed enough. No, Chris, this is not depressing. This is actually These numbers are way higher than I would have thought. I mean, because
Yeah.
you figure, look, all the people you knew in school, or like, you go into like a Jiffy Lube, or something like that, and you see. Well, no, I'm just saying, you see these
No, I
people.
like that it's a Jiffy Lube. That's all.
I'm just saying, you've got mechanics, and just like an
Yeah,
everyday
anywhere.
person, mechanic, whatever, and you wouldn't think, oh, this guy plays role playing games, like this,
Right.
like traditional, like normally you would think, oh, not that guy.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who play on sports teams, people who, like, traditionally 30 years ago, you would be like, no, they don't. There's no way they play, right?
Yeah. So
They do.
this means that if you overhear somebody at work talking about their fantasy football game, there's a 10% chance it's Blood Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
no.
not fantasy football NFL.
So it's no. I don't think it's depressing. I think it's actually encouraging.
It's
I
very
think these numbers are way higher than I would have thought.
And like I said, the most exciting thing is that the biggest numbers are Gen Z, because that means that if you're hoping to continue playing games for as long as you can and making games, it's not some baby boomer Gen X, aging out kind of phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
You might hear some of the OSR folks who are in their 50s or 60s or whatever are complaining about, like, it's all over. It was only good when I was a youngin'. No,
Yeah, they're wrong.
No, it's not over
They're
at
wrong.
all.
No. And from what you and I saw at Game Face,
Mm-hmm.
hell no, it's not over. There's so much good new stuff out there, like really cool new stuff out there. Like, yeah, it's not depressing at all.
And all right, so here's a good bit. So Dave Rosser, hi Dave. And yes, I missed you at GaryCon too. It was a bummer. Sorry, David Benavides says this barber in his shop played Weird Heroes of Public Access.
Yeah.
All right, so Dave says the depressing bit, 5e has entered Monopoly range. We're like the snobbish board gamers who would never play Monopoly. Meanwhile, 5e is slowly getting into every American home. Yeah, I don't think that's depressing at all, because I think 5e or D&D is a gateway drug, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the good news. So we're now getting to the part of the survey where it says, what is the most popular tabletop game in the top 10 most popular games. And I want to make sure I'm getting this right when I explain what these percentages mean, because they look pretty good to me. All right, so the survey asked respondents to pick from a list of 40 options covering a range of popular tabletop war games and RPGs and a few more niche ones. And they tried to figure out what the top games were. So combined across all the countries, you're not going to be surprised to find that 32% of respondents said that Dungeons and Dragons was the one they played. But now we got 9 more, and D&D was only 32% of this. Mm-hmm. So do you have the list there? You want to go down the list? We'll kind of go back.
Yeah. So we have Kings of War, which I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is. But
15.5%. Yeah, it's like number 2.
Yeah. So right off the bat, you've got something that's half as popular as D&D. And we don't even know it. So that's good news, right?
Yeah.
Next one is Star Wars X-Wing, which is a really good game. I get it. 14.25% of the respondents said that was their game.
Wait a minute, is that like a board game? Is that a
No. Star Wars X-Wing is like a skirmish game.
Okay.
You got your little X-Wing fighters, and you put them on the little stands. And
yeah, I was gonna say, but there's a board and miniatures and stuff involved in that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we're gonna get RPGs and war games mixed together here.
Oh man, I am happy to see number 4, because I love this game. BattleTech 12.47. That's awesome. Number 4.
12.5%. That's awesome.
That's
and
awesome.
Then Cyberpunk, no surprise there, because they've done a really good job with the franchise across all kinds of media. So Cyberpunk is at number 5 with 12%.
Yep. Star Wars Edge of the Empire / Star Wars Shatterpoint, 11.83. That makes sense.
And that's an RPG there. So so basically we've got Star Wars miniatures and Star Wars RPG.
Yeah.
And then the next one with almost the same amount was Warhammer, or Legions Imperialis.
Yeah, Warhammer 40K.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 11%, right? Marvel Crisis Protocol, which I'm not really. Which one is that? Do you know which one that is? All right, it's a Marvel game. Superheroes.
So then we've got Black Powder at 10%. I don't know that game. I'm guessing it's a war game by the name.
Sounds like it. And then there's Call of Cthulhu at 9.9%.
Right.
In Japan, it's much higher, but
Oh, yeah. I mean,
worldwide, it's 9.9%.
Cthulhu rules Japan. It really
Yeah, it
does.
Yeah, it does.
But I mean, the great thing about this is that nobody was surprised to see Dungeons and Dragons at the top. And if it's ever not at the top, you're going to see a nuclear explosion in somebody's ears over in Seattle from WotC.
Right.
But it's not ahead by that much, 32%. And then the next one's 15. So it goes basically 32, 15, 14, 12, 12, 12, 11, 10, 10, 10. So everyone, this is a pretty good, well spread out thing. And it means that gamers are willing to play more than D&D.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad to see that. I mean, again, no shade on D&D. I'm never going to throw shade on D&D.
No.
But I'm glad to see other games.
It shouldn't be the only thing.
Right. No, not at all.
And if people treat it like Monopoly and that's what they all want to play, good. You should. I mean, I did that when I was a kid. That was the second game I ever played.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. A couple more fun things in here. There is a slide about how much have tabletop gamers spent on their hobby.
Oh, wow. Yeah, these numbers make sense.
Yeah. So Australia is actually, people are spending some money in Australia.
They are.
So in the United States, the largest cohort or whatever is people who have spent between $100 and $200. That's a quarter of the people. And another quarter of the people have spent between $200 and $500. So you've got people spending between $100 and $500 in the United States on their RPG habit.
Is this annual?
I think it's total.
Total? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's total cost across a gamer's life.
Wow.
Because you got to remember, most players are players, not DMs, right?
Right. The DM always buys
Yeah. So you go and you buy a few books and you play. And so, I mean, just the fact that there's a significant number of people down there who have spent less than $50, like 15% of them. But then you go up to the upper end of the range. And so already Australia is spending a lot more. There a lot of them, 50% of them are spending between $100 and $500. But then 16% of Australians have spent over $1,000 on their
holy shit.
I know. Can you imagine getting away so cheaply? I mean, geez, $1,000. I could. What would my RPG collection be like if I only spent $1,000
in a lifetime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't count making, and that's these are in American dollars, so that's not Australia is not higher because the Australian dollar is higher. Dave said the Australian dollar just crashed against the U.S. I don't even know what that means because I'm not good with economics, but
no,
I don't know if that's good or bad for us. But
you know what? Dollars go up and down. In a week now, it could go back up. Who knows?
The main trick is to find out when your dollar is going to get you the most money and go on vacation to the place that it works the best.
Right. And just remember, hey, anybody watching this at any point, if you're in the stock market and you see the stock market crashing, do not sell now.
Yeah,
hang on. You only lose
don't
money.
Buy either. Don't follow this buy the dip crap.
Right.
Just leave your money alone.
Leave your money alone. You don't lose unless you cash out.
Yeah. So, if your 401k is crashing, it probably is, and so is mine, and so is everybody's.
Yeah,
but
just leave it alone for right now.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get mad about it, but just leave it alone. Hopefully it'll get back. Hopefully you have a long enough time to wait.
Yeah.
But hey, back to the survey. There's one more thing that I thought was pretty cool, which was about, do tabletop gamers buy a lot of merchandise related to their favorite franchises?
Okay.
Yeah, Brian says I'm way over 1,000. I'm like, Brian, I'm there with you. I'm way over 1,000 last month.
Yeah, I know.
No,
dude, I think you're way over
1,000
in Game Face.
Wait, my wife's listening to the show. I am not over $1,000.
No, you did not spend that much at Game Face, but goddamn, you could have.
Yeah, but you know what though? I counted that too because I've got some stuff sitting in the storage area getting ready to sell too. I picked up a whole ton of those Dungeons and Dragons cartoon cups from the fast food thing in Brazil.
Yeah,
a year or two ago, and I still haven't pulled them out to sell them yet. So
oh god, okay,
that should get me enough money to buy some more books.
Hey, look at this merchandise.
Yeah. So, okay. What was the most popular tabletop gaming related merchandise? Number one, novels or comics. People like to read more about the world.
That totally makes sense.
What's that? What else we have on here?
Shirts, mugs, posters, and homewares. The US 11%, Canada. Dude, you know what I'm seeing here?
Hmm.
Pretty much
Canada's spending
across
some money.
Canada spends money on merch.
Well, I hear that life is good in Canada, and they've got a couple extra dollars to spend on things.
Yeah,
so.
maybe. Yeah. Australia does not spend much on merch.
Yeah.
You know why? You know what? You know why? Because I
bet I
bet
do.
you because the shipping costs and everything
Yeah.
to get stuff to Australia is probably why they don't buy much merch.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then it says statuettes and figurines. I mean, what is that? Action characters or is it minis? I don't know.
I don't know.
Movies or video games. I guess. I mean, how can you spend a lot of money on movies or video games related to your stuff?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of movies or video
don't
games
know.
related to RPG.
But
Not a lot.
It's interesting. So I'm just going to go to no, I don't have any related merchandise. In the United States, 73.5% said, no, I don't have any merchandise. In Australia, 87% said, no, I don't have any merchandise. In Canada, only 25%, only a quarter, 75% of the Canadians that have responded got some related merchandise.
You know what that tells me? We need to sell some merch in Canada.
Yeah. What do they like up there? Brian, what do they like?
Yeah, Brian, what do they like up there?
All right. So that's a fun survey. We'll put the link to that in the show notes and let people go and check that out. I love that there's an insurance adjusters in Australia telling us how the world is working right now.
Yeah.
Hey, before we head out, let's talk about our Patreon.
Yeah.
We'll big this up a little bit more, but we've had a lot of people join it, and I'm just grateful. I mean, because that is a show of support. So I'm trying to keep putting stuff up there as much as I can. I'm in the middle of working on Mirror Shade, so I'm posting updates as I get that done. We will put more things up there. We have 3 free tiers. We have 3 tiers. You do the.
Yeah. So we have the free tier. We have the Seeker and the Navigator, right? So and we put like the stuff that has the biggest like impact and volume, of course, on the highest level, just because it's a lot of work on our part to put that out. And so I generally tend to put up 2 things for Navigator, 2 things for Seeker, and then a free thing for the free. And then we're going to add stuff, kind of ad hoc from time to time. So Jason threw up Mirror Shades. I have some stuff I've been like planning on throwing up there is and I might even just throw it up on the free level. Doesn't whatever, but like,
Dave is asking for the link. So it's patreon.com/Solarian.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And we'll get better about telling people this exists too. We've sent out some emails, but I think the thing we have to learn to do is to say things more often.
Yeah. So last month's, which was only, I mean, because it launched on its own, and then we had to like catch up. It's like 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. I put out the World Book for Algeria. There was another World Book entry for
South Korea.
Castle Security. Well, that's South Korea's coming. Put out for the one for security, Castle Security, which is like an agency.
Yep.
Then we put out some guns. Put out the Tradecraft, like 2 of the Tradecrafts, like big expansions that Scott Congable wrote. And then and we had a hacker. We threw in a hacker. So if your group, if your group's going on a mission and they need a hacker, and you call Icon up, you're like, hey, we need a hacker to help us or whatever, or the game master, the administrator wants to run a mission and you're going to need a hacker, but none of you really have a hacker. You can say, all right, this person is going to join you. So this month coming up, I've already finished. I mean, I haven't done it in the layout and stuff, but I finished the writing of South Korea as a country you can run. It has a whole bunch of plot hooks and everything you need to know about Korea as as administrator and Icon agent. I also finished it's Wyvern Security Systems, which is basically like a Lockheed Martin. It's like our version of like Lockheed Martin. So that's going to come. That has a bunch of plot hooks and stuff. I finished writing that. Again, it's not in layout and stuff, so I'm not ready to put it up just yet. And layout's minimal.
Oh, but honestly. Okay. So here's the other thing. We've got this little prototype template now that we can throw things in. So I'll throw that to you, and you can just put them in there, so that way you don't have to lay anything out, but you can put it out and it doesn't just look like a Word document.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a setup for it. It does. It's not a big deal. But then I also have a bunch of guns that I started putting together.
Well, we can also, Nick Seidler has written a whole gun book, and I see Nick's on our chat too. So we can start putting some of those things there before we get ready to publish the actual book.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's gonna be a ton of stuff. It won't all be top secret. Some of it'll be different games.
Oh yeah. No, I got the beta for More Blood coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta trim that down because it's not 100% finished. So I'm just gonna put together like something that you guys can play with, like enough for you guys to play games with it. But that'll be a beta that'll go in, something you download from our Patreon. And it's just like stuff that we keep thinking of,
The idea is for us to basically just keep everybody abreast of what we're doing. Let the let the in progress stuff be visible to people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you go to Happy Joe's and they let you watch the pizza getting made.
Yeah.
So
and people have been asking us questions about things and like giving feedback on stuff like Mirror Shades. You had somebody giving you feedback on that, which was awesome. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then maybe we'll incorporate it.
Yeah.
The idea
really
is
helpful. And as soon as we figure out how to do it, technically, we will be starting to do a hangout after the podcast for Patreon members. So we'll be sticking around to just, chew the fat.
And we may have to jump into another room, so may not, but whatever.
We could just go to Discord for that.
Yeah. So the point of the matter is that if you're a Patreon member, and again, this will be,
I'm thinking tonight because it's late, but maybe
not tonight.
In a week or two. I think what we should do, let's just put them on the Discord.
Okay.
We'll hop over there. We'll have a voice chat only for, or whatever. We'll figure it out. It'll be
right. And it'll basically just be a community chat. You guys can jump in.
A little lounge.
And it doesn't even have to be about Solarian. Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you want to talk about Solarian stuff, that'd be the best thing. It just makes sense just because we're here.
Yeah.
But if you want to say, hey guys, I watched a movie and it was really cool, I'll talk to you about a movie.
I want to start a TV club, but nobody will start a TV watching club with me. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. Right.
All right.
But that's this week.
Yeah. So anyways, that sounds like it's about time to end for us. So people who are listening, please, if you like our show, make sure to share it with your friends. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and go to SolarianGames.com for all of our cool stuff.
Right. And keep an eye out because the Kickstarter is coming in a couple weeks.
Yep. Well, the actual Kickstarter itself will launch like at the end of the month or maybe the beginning of next month, but we'll be announcing it. We'll have the preview page up in a few days.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's still the beginning of the month.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, and good night.